Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to start our new unit. We're going to be doing integumentary system. This is an exciting start of our regarding our content because this is the first real body system. The other units that we've been covering were more introductory, more basic level stuff, and now we're actually moving on into something a little bit more intensive. So that's good to hear. Shouldn't be too problematic, honestly. But we'll go through it bit by bit, as usual. Let's see what our goals are for the unit. Learn the different types of tissue found in the integumentary system and their roles. So, what are these tissue? What do they do? That's something that we'll talk more about in the next video. Comprehend the role of the integumentary system and its importance to the body. We'll start a little bit of that today, but that's something that's more prolonged. And then finally, understand the severity of melanoma and other skin diseases. Not only for our final exam do we need to understand some diseases, but I also think it's worthwhile learning a little bit of pathology. The whole point of pathology is the study of disease. The likelihood that you will encounter someone in your life that has one of these diseases, and I hope it's never you, is pretty high, statistically speaking. So it's much better to know more about it and just have that basic level of knowledge to at least share empathy with said person. All right, so here we see a basic structure of skin. We're going to learn all of these structures eventually, most of them at least. But let's talk about some basics. First off, skin is the largest organ by far. It covers you from head to toe, so you got a lot of it. It has many different functions. That is stuff that we'll talk about in this video. The integument. So the word integument is relating to a Latin phrase, which means tough outer protective layer. Integument literally forms the integumentary system, right? So this tough outer protective layer, if you think about it on an evolutionary standpoint, you might be thinking, man, did humanity get screwed? Like, are we on the bottom of the totem pole because we have this soft, fleshy stuff? Not necessarily. Yeah, we're not like rhinos that we can barrel through anything, or, we don't have snake skin or anything like that we can shed regularly. Not exactly. But we do have skin that works for us. That's the beauty of evolution, that there is no perfect creature. Yes, we're very advanced. Yes, we're considered to be like the apex on the pyramid. But there is no perfect creature. Every single creature has downsides. Every single creature has negatives that it has to handle. And lastly, just like they talk about in Shrek regarding the onion and how it's a heart, like the onion has layers, and that's kind of like Shrek's heart. Same thing with your skin. Most organs that we learn have a lot of different layers to them. The skin that you physically can see, that is mostly going to be the outer layer of skin, which is the thinnest layer of skin. The other stuff you don't normally see unless you've had a cut or wound, or you're using some sort of microscopic tool and examining like an actual subsection of skin. Okay, some basic vocabulary. Again, I like going over some vocab just to make sure that we're comfortable with some terminology. I also think that, my class sometimes feels like you're learning a foreign language. So it's worthwhile understanding some of the prefixes and suffixes because of all that Latin and Greek. Derma means skin. That's what we observe. Dermatology, as I talked about in our first unit, is the study of skin. So dermatologists are people who practice dermatology. Dermatitis. It would be a good idea, in my opinion, to learn what that suffix means. Itis. Itis is indicating inflammation. So inflammation of the skin, what's another word for that a lot of us have had in our lives, sometimes many times in our lives? A rash. Inflammation of the skin. Oftentimes, most of these rashes are typically allergic reactions. Epi means upon or above. So in this instance, epidermis is upon the dermis. That's stuff that we're going to learn in another video down the line, so don't have to worry too much about that. And finally, a term that I do think is worthwhile paying attention to, vascular. Vascular, it means pertaining to blood or blood supply. So the good news is the vast majority of your body, by definition, is vascular because we have blood that goes throughout our entire body. But there are regions of our body, such as the top layer of your skin, that lack blood, and we call that avascular. So you're going to see that come up as well in another video, but these are some basic terms that I want us to be comfortable with for now. Okay, moving on down. Functions of skin. So we're almost done. just a couple things to discuss for this video. First off, your skin is your outer covering. So that's common sense. Without our skin, all these organs, especially in our cavities, could plop right out of you. So you want the skin to contain everything. So that's basic. What else does it do? Well, it also acts as your first line of defense. When I think of the first line, the lines of defense have to do with how the immune system protects your body. This is stuff we're going to learn when we do our mini discussion relating immunity. But the first line of defense, what I always think of is when you are defending a city or a town from foreign invaders, and we're talking like in the days before any advanced technology, right? What would you construct to fortify your location? Walls. A wall is like your skin. Your skin is just one big giant wall that defends against the millions of bacteria that exist around us. And that's what it does. Now, it's why proper hygiene is so important. It's common sense stuff. It shouldn't take a pandemic for people to realize washing your hands is important. You should try to avoid touching your hands to your face at all times. Just because, generally speaking, we carry a lot of bacteria on us often. Now, here's the thing. We're all human. You'll see me in some videos doing something like this or something around those lines. Is it so problematic? Not necessarily. Our bodies do have methods to handle this stuff. Our bodies are pretty good at what it does. But these are things that you can do to help your body out. What else does your skin do? It also helps to regulate body temperature. 98.6 plus or minus 1 Fahrenheit, right? That's where we love. Our body loves that temperature. When it gets really hot, these videos are recorded in Florida. When it gets really hot, you sweat. You're going to sweat to cool off. When it gets cold, you shiver. So that's your body's natural response to these temperature changes and these temperature fluctuations. I will say, though, our bodies are much better prepared for heat than they are for cold temperatures. Let's say you were dropped in the middle of a tropical island with nothing. As long as you have water, your body will continuously sweat to cool you off. Sure, if you run out of water, you'll dehydrate and eventually die. But if you're just dropped in the middle of the Arctic and you're freezing, there's only so much you can shiver to keep you alive. You're not going to survive much longer. Manufacturing vitamin D. This is a pretty big one. Vitamin D we obtain from the sun. Yes, you can take it from supplemental purposes like pills and everything, but nothing beats natural vitamin D. So where do we get this stuff? From the sun. The sun emits UV radiation every single day to the planet and the rest of the planets in the solar system for that matter anyway. Well, that UV radiation is necessary for all living organisms in one way or another. For humans, what we do is we can convert that UV radiation in using special skin cells and convert it into vitamin D. Super important vitamin. It plays a major role in the skeletal system, immune system. So getting enough sun, very important. On average, I would suggest for most people, regardless of complexion, 30 minutes of exposed sunlight is what you need to get all the vitamin D you need. Your skin also acts like a site for many nerve endings. So what I mean by that is your skin is the host to one of your more complex senses, touch. Touch is interesting. Touch is not so simple as, hey, look, I am touching my index finger and thumb. I can feel that. It's more than just that. Touch tells you that you're in pain. Touch tells you how much pressure are you applying on something. Touch also tells you that you're wearing clothing. Touch tells you the texture of said clothing. Touch tells you so much information that we're going to learn when we do senses down the line. Right? And finally, what other things can skin be associated with? Temporary storage. This is pretty important. So we find things like glucose, not too much glucose. It's not like glycogen in the liver. It's a little bit. What we find a lot of in the skin is going to be fat. We have a lot of concentration of fat. It's the whole idea, I'm sure you're familiar with apples versus pears as far as body fat is stored. An apple would be someone who forms their body fat around their waist, their abdomen. The problem with that, and these are people that typically can have much bigger bellies but much smaller legs and thighs. The problem with that is that you start adding a lot of weight to the belly region, and it can cause more issues with a number of body systems, including the cardiovascular system. Pears, on the other hand, typically can be healthier. Again, too much body fat in the body is a problem anyway, but it can be more manageable because with pairs, you add more body weight in the glutes and thighs region. So that's more easy for your body to handle than right on the chest. What else do we find in the skin? Water, salt, aka sweat. We've all tasted sweat before, and I'm not trying to sound weird, but we've all tasted sweat before. It's not literally just water. It's a salty compound that has water, salts, electrolytes, etc. What else does skin do? Well, it protects from UV radiation. Now, was I lying? Was I just saying, wait, UV radiation, I thought it had to do with vitamin D. It does. But too much UV is a problem. So your skin acts like a natural sunscreen. Depending on your complexion, it's a matter of how much can that natural sunscreen protect you. If you're of lighter complexion, your skin can naturally protect you against the sun for 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, depending on how dark you are. And if you're of darker complexion, your skin can naturally protect you against the sun for hours, plural, just depending on complexion. So 100% can protect you, but there's limits. And that's why sunscreen can be so helpful. Finally, it can absorb chemical substances directly through the skin. Now, the analogy I give is that theoretically, if you were to put a particle of food on your palm and you were to leave it there for months on end, eventually that particle would absorb through the skin into the bloodstream. But the problem is you'd be dead. You can't consume products through your skin fast enough to survive. Instead, what does work is more so transferring things through your skin that are more liquid based. So for instance, lotions, creams, anything that you apply to your skin for like acne or just in general to make your skin look nice and fresh and healed up, that's all liquid based. So it's going to absorb much faster. We've all seen the effects of that before too. Finally, I have a video that I like to share. On your time, you can YouTube search Science of Skin. It's a TED Ed video. I love TED stuff. I know everyone's heard of TED as far as like, oh, this is my TED Talk, the meme. But TED has a education department, TED Ed, where they make videos that are like 5 to 7 minutes long, and they bring in different speakers to talk about stuff. So that's similar. But what I really love about it is that they use incredible visuals, visual aids to show what is going on. And a lot of these videos really touch upon stuff that we learn. So this is one of those videos that I highly suggest. I would highly recommend. In fact, I can put it in the YouTube link, like it'll be in the About section. And that way you can just click on that and then boom, you're good to go. But that's about it for this video, guys. Not too bad for our first one. Like I said, this is our first official unit, especially because it's our first body system. But I don't think it should be too problematic if you're paying attention and we're keeping up with the things we need to do. Okay? So that's about it for me, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys on the next one.